Hello, Happy New Year. I hope 2026 is going to be a good one for you. So today's video is going to be my most worn fragrances in 2025. I'm just going to walk through my year, talk about which fragrance I ended up wearing the most in each month of 2025. So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Claire. I talk all about fragrance on this channel. I'm a scientist in real life, and I basically do these videos as a kind of relaxation. It's a hobby for me. I don't use affiliate links, I don't try and sell people things, I just talk about fragrance. So if that kind of thing interests you, then please do consider subscribing, and please also press the like button if you do enjoy this kind of content. So I am a bit of a geek. I do use a spreadsheet to track which fragrances I wear, and that helps me with decluttering. It helps me to know which fragrances that I seem to reach for most, because sometimes the fragrances you think you love are not necessarily the ones that you wear the most. And ultimately, I think it's all about wearability. It's about the situation you find yourself in. For example, if you're at work a lot, sometimes the most exciting ones are perhaps not the ones that are the most suitable for those kinds of situations. So it's just really interesting to see which fragrances you wear most over the year. So let's start off with January. So my most worn fragrance in January was actually a 5-way tie. I wore all of these 3 times each, and I'm just going to pick one out to talk about in this video because otherwise this video would be incredibly long. So really the most special one to me here is Lush's 29 High Street. So this fragrance was a gift from John at Scented Snowdrops for Christmas 2024, and that's really why I put this one on my tray in January. And I just wanted to really get to know it and to enjoy it. So this fragrance is a very jewel-toned, very bright, very happy feeling fragrance. It's almost solar feeling. It's got ylang-ylang, which I think is what gives it that brightness and energy. But it's also very citrusy and very sort of almost zingy in the opening. Really, as this dries down, it turns more into the smell of the Lush shop. So lots of tonka, but also just this feeling of almost something like a bath bomb under running water. It's bright, it's pink, it's almost slightly soapy in that Lush kind of way, but it's also got that really kind of Lush style musk about it. I really like this one. It always makes me feel fresh and clean, and it's just a really happy feeling, nostalgic scent to me. I think if you grew up going to Lush stores and, you know, smelling all of the products there, this one just takes you straight back to those kinds of memories. So this one is Lush's 29 High Street. So in February, my most worn fragrance was a tie between 2. So one of those was Balenciaga Paris, which I've put in my top 10 for life. I love that fragrance. But I also wore this one 4 times. This is Kayali's Lovefest Burning Cherry 48. So this fragrance, it's definitely not a reach all year round. This isn't something that I reach for regularly. I go through phases with this one, and clearly I was in a phase for this one back in February. I guess it's that kind of Valentine's vibe. It's sweet, and it's also got that underlying almost smokiness, hasn't it, this fragrance? I think the thing I really love about this though is the heliotrope. The heliotrope really makes this kind of powdery sweet along with the raspberry, really enhances the fruitiness here. And it just really complements as well the Palo Santo. I just think this fragrance hangs together well. I think this one actually might be my favourite from Kayali at the moment. It's always the one that I come back to. So that's Kayali's Lovefest Burning Cherry 48. So the next fragrance wasn't even on my tray in March, and it ended up being my most worn, and that's because I was so shocked by how much I enjoyed this one. I didn't even buy this one, I was gifted it by the brand, and this one's from Mabelle O'Rama, and Mabelle O'Rama is a tiny British brand. They have 3 fragrances on the market so far, and this is their 3rd fragrance, Phoenix Flame. And I didn't buy this because I honestly didn't think this would be for me. I looked at the notes and I thought, no, I'm probably not going to like this. I've liked the other 2 fragrances in the range. If I get to sample it, I will sample it, but this isn't something that I can see myself loving. And I was so wrong. So this one is a sumac fragrance. So I use sumac a lot in cookery, and I really do like the smell of it, but I couldn't ever imagine it being made into a fragrance. But I think when you smell a lot of fragrances, they all become a little bit samey, and smelling something like sumac in a fragrance just makes you kind of do a double take and just step back a little bit, because it's such a different kind of smell. And this fragrance really attracts attention. It's very loud, very spicy, very warm, very enveloping, and it's almost a little bit huggy in the dry down with all the resins there. But really in the opening, it's got a kind of lemony feel. It's a bit cardamom-like, but really it's the sumac that's the biggest player here. It's rich, it's earthy, spicy, hot. And in the dry down, it just turns into the most gorgeous kind of warming fragrance. It feels warm on your skin even. And this one I just never expected to love. It's very strong. It's something that lasts the whole day. It's, you know, this 7.5ml will probably last me years because it's a 1 or 2 spray fragrance for me. I love this. I've used quite a lot considering it is so strong. I think the level's sort of somewhere down here. So yeah, love this one. Phoenix Flame by Mabelle O'Rama. So my most worn fragrance in April is one I've had for some years, and I always come back to this one in springtime. It's just a perennial favourite, and it's Gucci Bloom Nettare de Fiori. And this fragrance is, I think, quite hard to find now, but I do also really like the Ambrosia flanker from this line as well. But I think, you know, Gucci Bloom, the original, I'm not so much in love with, but I just absolutely adore this flanker, and I adore Ambrosia as well. The thing I love about this is that it's a dewy feeling tuberose. It feels like a springtime tuberose. It's slightly green almost. Very, very slightly indolic too, in that kind of friendly designer kind of style of indolic white florals. There's some jasmine here too, along with the tuberose, but it's tempered by a sweetness from some honeysuckle. It gives it kind of a rainy garden feel really, along with the ginger adding some freshness to this, and then also the rose. I'd say really it's the tuberose and the honeysuckle that are the overall stars, but the ginger really adds a lot to this fragrance. Really freshens it up, makes it brighter, makes it easier to wear for me than something like Bloom, the original, or even the more modern flankers. So that's Gucci Bloom Nettare de Fiori. So in May, I was just reaching mostly for easy reach kinds of fragrances. I actually made a video, I think, entitled My Top 10 Easy Reach Fragrances because I was feeling so inspired to talk about those kinds of fragrances in my collection. And actually my most worn this month were a lot of my favourites. I would just like to highlight this one because I've had it a few years now. I think it's harder to find, but it still is available. This is definitely one of my most favourite springtime easy reach fragrances, Chant d'Extase by Ricci. I'm not going to talk about that one. I'm going to talk about this one, which is Miss Dior Rose N'Roses. And I just would like to point out that this fragrance, I didn't even try. When this first came out, I just was not interested. And I don't know why. I think it's because I thought it was going to be boring. And whilst it's not an exciting, you know, there's not a lot going on with this fragrance, it's just so well done. This is a pink, fresh rose with a slight greenness, and then a lovely kind of musky rose dry down, but it's not powdery, it's not heavy, it's quite light, airy, pretty feeling. And I think that's what I really love about this one. I do actually own La Col Noir from the Privé line, and I know they have slightly different notes. I know La Col Noir is more based around peony, but for me they're kind of equivalent in the times and places and feelings when I might choose to pick these fragrances up. And I just feel like I maybe should have tried this one before I bought La Col Noir, because I feel like La Col Noir has become redundant in my collection. I don't feel like I reach for that one as much. Now I've got Miss Dior Rose N'Roses. So yeah, definitely one of my most worn fragrances this spring, Miss Dior Rose N'Roses. So in June, I was trying out Alien Extraintense because I'd been gifted that one in PR and I wanted to review it. I also was wearing Révolution de la Fleur by Jardin, which is a creamy tropical floral fragrance that I think I was gifted sometime in 2024. And really, when I first got that, I really dismissed it and I thought, oh, this is just like any other tropical floral. But actually, I really rate that one. I think it's got a really nice creaminess to it, and I ended up finishing that one off in August. The other fragrance that I ended up wearing a lot was Narciso Ambrée, but the one I'm going to talk about in this video is Sacred Mist by Cosmos. So this fragrance is by Kate Moss's now defunct brand Cosmos, and I've never seen anybody talk about this, and I guess because it's just not really something you might think of as a perfume. It's more like something you might wear if you were going to a spa, or it's more like a treatment mist almost, I guess. But actually this is quite long lasting really. If it's considered a treatment mist, I get 4 or 5 hours out of this, no problem. And I bet if you sprayed it on clothes, you would get even longer. So this one is very much sort of a slightly herbal, woody, slightly resinous fragrance, but it's very, very light. It does have a slightly metallic feel in the dry down, but also a sweetness. I think this fragrance really makes me think of saunas. If you think of like a wooden panelled room and like the wood sort of slightly warmed, perhaps with some herbs sort of sitting around, that's really what this fragrance is. It's very relaxing. I ended up wearing it to bed quite a lot as well during the summer. And yeah, if you can find it, I'd say if you like fragrances like Clarine's Eau de Nuisance, especially if you find that fragrance slightly too spicy or too old school, then this one might be something to check out. I think if you like those kinds of spa style fragrances, like maybe Sana Jardin, Sandalwood Temple, then you might really like this one. So that's Cosmos Sacred Mist. So July in the UK was absolutely roasting. And the fragrances I ended up wearing most in July were Le Jardin de Monsieur by Hermès. This is just always a favourite. I love the kumquat in this. Also, I ended up wearing Orange Soleia by Guerlain. So this one is just the most refreshing, most natural kind of orange citrus fragrance. You spray it on and it smells just like, you know, when you're just about to peel an orange and you've just put your thumbnail into the zest of the orange and it's just releasing the oils. It smells like that, but also with a slight greenness to it. And the thing I love about this most especially is there's no ambroxan, no noticeable ambroxan anyway. And also the musk in the dry down is smooth. There's no kind of graininess. Sometimes when you smell orangey scents, they smell almost like, I don't know, like Sunny D or something. They're just very bright and concentrated and they just don't smell like an orange smells when you just peel it. This one does. I really recommend this one. It's not the longest lasting fragrance in the world. If you want a really long lasting fragrance, you're going to have to go for something artificial with citruses. But I think this one does pretty well and I really love this one during July. So that's Orange Soleia. So in August I had a lot of time off. I had the whole month off work and I also went on holiday to Germany. I had a great time there. Did a lot of walking in the forests. Did a lot of hiking in the mountains, even though it was like 35 degrees some days. I had a great time. Anyway, so I also ended up wearing a lot of fragrances that are very summery in August because of the hot weather. And I ended up finishing this one from Oriyïi, which is called Cadren. I don't think this is now still available, but I really did enjoy this one. I also ended up wearing Il Vierge a lot from Pocket Scents. This is actually a dupe of Creed's Virgin Island Water. So I really love the freshness of the lime in this fragrance and that rum cocktail kind of feel. Really refreshing. And I also ended up wearing my perennial summer favourite of Flora Botanica, of course. But the one I'm going to talk about in this video is actually one from Grenado. So I was gifted this bottle of Citrus Brasilis and I'd completely dismissed Grenado as a brand. I tried one of their fragrances and I just was sort of a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of ambroxan in the dry down. This one though, it's a different story. And I will fully admit that Grenado fragrances, having tried a few more from them, they're very hit and miss for me. They're not always something I enjoy. There is an undertone of particular aroma chemicals in a lot of their fragrances, but I don't get that in Citrus Brasilis. I think Citrus Brasilis is definitely my favourite of the ones that I've tried so far. So yeah, I'd recommend this one, but I think probably the reason I really like this one is because it smells very similar to another of my favourites. It smells very similar to Le Jardin de Monsieur by Hermès. And whilst there are immense similarities, I think this one is more orangey. So they're both kumquat fragrances, and I think that's really why they do stand out as quite similar, because kumquat is something you don't smell a lot in fragrance. There are other things listed in this fragrance like the mint and the violet leaf, and I wouldn't ever say this smells herbal. I'd say this smells verdant. It smells just slightly green. There's nothing really sort of too minty about this at all. I think this one is probably the simpler fragrance out of the two, but it's probably the more likeable overall. So that's Citrus Brasilis. So in September, I ended up wearing a celebrity fragrance a lot. In fact, so much that I ended up using up the bottle. This is Madonna's Truth or Dare. So yeah, I love this one, but sadly gone, discontinued, isn't it? It's a white floral, it's tuberose, but it's also lily very strongly. And yeah, I miss this one. I think this is a very good fragrance. Also, I ended up wearing Floris's A Rose 4. So A Rose 4 is something that I would compare with things like Halfeti, Portrait of a Lady. It's a fragrance that definitely has that kind of immense trail, but it's not as strong as those fragrances. I think with Halfeti and Portrait of a Lady, I find them a little bit too much for me to wear, but they're things that if I do smell them on other people, I end up following those people. It sounds weird, but I was actually at a conference and somebody was wearing Halfeti and I literally followed this woman into the lunch queue because I just wanted to smell the fragrance. And this is how I feel about a Rose 4. It's something I don't wear that often, but when I wear it, I just think, oh gosh, this smells so good. It's got an almost boozy opening. It smells almost like a rosé wine or perhaps something slightly deeper than that, maybe a light sherry. But as this dries down, the black tea and the rose really come to the forefront, and it's also got this lovely kind of woodiness in the background. So yeah, it's a subtle, warm, woody rose tea fragrance. I think it's entirely unisex. I think this is something that would smell great on anybody, and it just leaves the most beautiful trail. It really lingers, this one. So that's Floris' A Rose 4. So in October, I ended up going to a conference in Paris. I did a presentation there, and that really sort of dominated October for me. That was really what I was thinking about, and I was focusing on that a lot because, you know, conference presentations, they're important, they're scary, you're presenting to hundreds of people. It's just worrying, isn't it? So I was looking for comforting kind of fragrances. So the one that I ended up wearing the most, in fact there were two this month, one of them was Nirvana Amethyst. So this is really very easygoing kind of vanilla fragrance that I think I've talked about quite a lot. I do sort of come back to this one quite a lot in the spring and also in the autumn. It's just a really nice kind of tobacco-y vanilla. Very, very light though. It's something that doesn't last too long. It's definitely one you have to respray. So the fragrance that I took with me to the conference was this one because it's in a little tiny bottle. It's easy to transport. Sana Jardin's Tiger by Her Side. So I was gifted this one, I think in 2024 by Sana Jardin. I've just got this little 5ml and actually I haven't finished it. I'm quite surprised because I feel like I've worn this a lot this year. This fragrance, I think I just fell in love with it because it's kind of warm, it's ambery, it's powdery, it's resinous. It's got this lovely kind of very gentle spice to it, but then also a little bit of a rosiness about it too. It's just one of those kind of huggy, friendly fragrances, and that's why I wore this one at the conference. I just felt like it fitted with meeting people and, you know, needing to talk to new people. So yeah, that's Sana Jardin's Tiger by Her Side. So in November, I could hardly smell anything because I had flu and then I had sinusitis. So probably for about a week, I couldn't really smell much. And that was really quite, I don't know, it's a bit depressing, isn't it, when you can't smell anything? Because it means you can't really taste anything either, or you can't taste as much. So yeah, I was trying to get my sense of smell back, and I was really trying to spray some of my most strong fragrances. And the one that I actually could smell was Phoenix Flame by Mabelle O'Rama. So I wore that a few days. But also I ended up wearing something that was quite new in my collection because I wanted to try it out. So that was Vareo's Witchy Woo, which I wouldn't say is too different to Tiger by Her Side, actually. It's sort of something along the same lines, just with more patchouli. But the one I'm going to talk about in this video is Chelsea Morning by Lush. To me, this fragrance is very bonfire night. If you're in the UK, bonfire night is a big thing in November. And really this fragrance is that kind of cinder toffee kind of smell, like the inside of a crunchy bar, or something like a really rich, gooey, sticky toffee pudding, or maybe something like ginger biscuits. It's definitely got a little bit of a maple syrup vibe as well at some points, this fragrance. It's just the most gourmand of gourmands for me, and it's very much something that isn't like a sickly gourmand. It's very much more of a rich kind of gourmand. Very lemony in the opening as well, this fragrance, but I think it's something that doesn't appeal to everybody because it is one of those kind of court sugar kind of smells. If you don't like molasses and if you don't like sort of dark sugary smells, this isn't going to be for you, but it really is for me. So that's Chelsea Morning by Lush. So the whole year I'd been really good and I'd been sticking to the fragrances on my tray. And then late November, I ended up buying a lot of fragrances. And actually most of these arrived sort of the middle of December, I think, with all the postage delays around Christmas time. It took them a while to get here anyway. And really my tray just went out the window. I just wore my new purchases. So the two that I ended up wearing the most in December were Andalusian Soul by Merchant of Venice, which is a fragrance that I tried in a sampling video and loved, and then bought a 100ml bottle of. And the other fragrance that I ended up wearing a lot during December, and I've tried to limit myself to 4 sprays, but I think I'm going to up that in January, is Shalimar L'Essence. So I only bought a 30ml and I already regret it, and that's why I've been limiting my number of sprays, but I'm just going to spray with abandon for January. This is my scent of the day today, and it has been my scent of the day for quite a lot of the Christmas and pre-Christmas period. I haven't worn it quite so much up to New Year, but actually since New Year I've been wearing this again. So Shalimar L'Essence is a fragrance that I think if you don't like the original Shalimar, you still could like. I'm pretty sure that most people have tried this now. It's something that feels a bit old news, but I just only discovered it in late November, and then I just had to buy a bottle. I just really liked it. And I was shocked because I'm just not a massive Shalimar fan. I'm someone who's kind of dismissed Shalimar as something being for me. This one I think is Shalimar but without the citrus. The citrus is very toned down, the leather's toned down, the animalic facets are toned down. And it's really just the most powdery, gorgeous, deep kind of vanilla. It's a deep, ambery, benzoin kind of vanilla fragrance. Just a really nice huggy one again. I think this is really the mood I'm in. I'm in the mood for comfort in the winter time, and this one just ticked all the boxes. Long lasting, but not necessarily that loud on me. I think it's something I definitely need to spray a bit more with. Yeah, really like this one, Shalimar L'Essence. So that's my final fragrance. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have enjoyed the video, then please do press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already, and please let me know which were your most worn fragrances in 2025. What are you looking forward to wearing in 2026 too? And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.